Hello everyone. Today is 10th of July. Now it's 10 past 10 in the morning Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update for the day in which I will share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. And there are quite a few very significant developments and news that I like to share with you for this moment. And I will start with the short summary of the situation on Ukrainian battlefield. I will highlight just a few directions. First, the northern part of Kharkiv region, despite expectations of their many military experts that the regime forces probably will regain control over the settlement of Gluboke in the western flank of Russian buffer zone in a Lipsy direction. Before NATO Summit kicks off. Well, it did not happen, by the way. Kiev regime forces conducted dozens of local-scale counterattacks in direction of Gluboke. In last several weeks, Russian troops neutralized, at this point, if we combine casualty numbers on the Kiev regime side, probably 3 to 4 battalions at least, just in Gluboke direction, and still Kiev regime was unable to regain control over this settlement and will not be able to regain control, I think, over any settlement. Really, Gluboka, not Gluboka, none of them. NATO Summit kicked off yesterday on 9th of July, and with a few exceptions, all their delegates on the NATO Summit will once again demonstrate how much disgrace all of them are of the humanity, for the humanity. And they will once again demonstrate that NATO itself is a paper tiger that don't really means nothing no more. They're just talking too much, but in reality, I mean, with the exception of few NATO member countries, all others are actively engaged in this proxy war against Russia, and what they managed to achieve, really. They just quite effectively demilitarize themselves. They are sacrificing a Ukrainian society and Ukraine, committing crime by this, and they are effectively demilitarizing themselves. That's all they managed to do, and the world is watching. World is watching, and if a few years ago there was ideas in this world that NATO is a force to be reckoned with, now we all know NATO is a paper tiger, just nothing, and run by a bunch of idiots, really. And when it comes to eastern flank of this buffer zone that Russian forces are creating last 2 months approximately on the northern part of Kharkiv region, there was also expectations that Kiev regime will regain control over the northern parts of Volchansk city before this NATO summit kicks off in Washington. And what happened in reality, by the way, yesterday, reports came in that Russian troops crossed the Volcha River and start conducting military operations on the southern side of the Volchansk. That's the reality on the ground. And I was always skeptical. Despite all this, I'm not military expert, by the way. I said this many times. I'm just trying to analyze information that is available in open sources. And I was very skeptical from the very beginning, even though many military experts were saying that Kiev regime concentrated a huge force in direction of this Lipsy and Volchansk, and they will do this and that, and they will regain control over the territories. They will force Russian troops out of Volchansk, Gluboke, Muboke, all of those areas. I was saying it's not happening. I was saying this is not happening, by the way. And I was correct. What can I say? I was correct. Let's continue, by the way. And still, I have to mention that after all, Russia is deploying this mobile defense strategy for a reason, right? For example, in Gluboka settlement, Russian troops, as I mentioned, demilitarized at least 3-4 battalions of the Kiev regime, and Russian armed forces in Lipsy direction in general already destroyed 3 to 4 brigades. Right? And therefore, if tomorrow, day after, for example, command of Russian troops in this direction will make decision, in direction of Gluboka will make decision, you know what, we did good job here. Now let's withdraw from this settlement, little bit, let them in and then crush them again. I would not be surprised at all, because this is Russian strategy. Mobile defense, creation of the traps here and there, just all along the front line. That's what Russian troops do, and quite effectively. But that's a different stuff when it's an operational decision-making process. These military experts, some of them, not all of them obviously, but some of them were saying that Kyiv regime will manage to regain initiative in these directions. And that's the whole different story. And I was correct when I was saying that there is no way Kyiv regime will be able to regain initiative on any of the sectors of the front line, on any of the directions. And I was correct. Also, by the way, let me share with you some information about New York direction. New members of our community or new people for people that are new to alternative media. This name of the settlement may be not familiar. I mean, New York, Russian troops in New York, what's going on here? Yes, by the way, there is New York settlement in DPR, which has quite a long history, really. Quite interesting history. I mean, you can Google it. And Russian troops for last during the past, let's say, 5 to 10 days, achieved breakthrough in the direction of New York, advanced significantly, and right now Russian units are just a few hundred meters from central parts of New York. Forward units of the Russian armed forces are just a few hundred meters from central parts of New York. And if you remember, yesterday or day before, I was saying that there are reports on several sources that Kyiv regime's defense lines are very weak in New York area. Troops that Kyiv regime redeployed towards New York are also not really ready for high intensity clashes. They are weak also, and therefore it is possible that Russian fast advance in New York area will continue, and some sources even suggested that Kyiv regime's defense lines may collapse in New York and this settlement may end up under full Russian control even before this week, before end of this week. I find that prediction too optimistic. After all, this settlement is quite big, and it will take time to establish control over the entire town. But progress of Russian troops clearly is quite rapid. That's for sure. And by the way, of course, another direction of Russian offensive in this area is Toretsk. Right now, Russian troops are advancing in Kirova-Druzhba areas. And well, if you take a look at the map, maybe you will agree with me that in my personal opinion, once again, I'm no military expert, so how should I know? But I think by looking at the map, that it will make all the sense to first establish control over the New York, maybe, especially if Kyiv regime's units in this area are not really battle capable in the long run, or even now. And once New York is under full Russian control, maybe it will make more sense to then start offensive or major offensive in direction of Toretsk from three sides, from southern side, from southern eastern side, and the northern eastern sides. And maybe, if my understanding of the situation is correct, maybe we will see some sort of operational pause right now in Toretsk direction, in areas of Kirova and Druzhba. Although, who knows? Who knows? Let's see. Let's wait and see. Right now, as far as I understand, the main focus is on New York. Also, by the way, Russian troops advancing towards Vozdvizhenka from Novo-Alexandrovka, and the forward units of Russian troops are already on outskirts of this settlement. And this tiny village, I mean, if you take a look at this village, by the way, it's just like a couple of roads, small industrial area here. This tiny village has quite a significance right now because of its geography. It located very close to this major supply and support line of the Kiev regime forces in the northern sectors of the front line. And after establishing control over the Vozdvizhenka, Russian troops will have fire control over this road. Although, by the way, Russian troops already have artillery control over this road anyways. But yes, Russian troops are getting closer to Vozdvizhenka. It was inevitable, obviously. And also, we have confirmation from Russian Defense Ministry that Yasna Brodovka settlement, this one, is under full Russian control now. We knew it for quite a while. I reported about Yasna Brodovka being liberated about a week ago, something like that. But Russian Defense Ministry, being extremely conservative institution, only now confirms this information. It happens so often, isn't it? That we already know there are so many reports, confirmations that this settlement or that settlement is under full Russian control now. And Russian Defense Ministry will report about it just like after 3 days, 5 days, maybe after a week or something. I don't know why is that, but that's how it happens quite often. And yes, this is it when it comes to short summary, by the way. Initiative is in Russian hands all along the front line, and I will say once again that there is no way, not even a slight chance that Kiev regime will be able to regain initiative on any of the directions of the front line. It's not happening. That's it. And let's continue now. I will remind you, dear friends, that if you are interested in more detailed information about developments on the line of contact, and of course on daily basis there are so many actions that are taking place on the line of contact, I recommend military channels for this additional detailed information. They are providing great volume of information on daily basis on that. My channel is about news in general, so I will continue now with media reportings. And well, first of all, as I already mentioned, the report from TASS that Russian Defense Ministry confirmed information about liberation of the Yasna Brodovka in Avdiivka sector of the front line. Then RIA Novosti's report about NATO Summit and promises that formerly President of US, Biden, in reality, whoever writes speeches for him, promises that what was made by speechwriter of the Biden to Kiev regime, that they will receive from NATO member states new bunch of air defense systems, and they will be priority, and US will only supply first Kiev and then other countries. As I said, NATO is a paper tiger, by the way. This NATO summit is a laughing stock. It's a clown show, obviously. And yes, I mean, they are promising that they're gonna send Patriot air defense systems to Kiev regime, SAMP-T, NASAMS, Hawk, IRIS-T, and so on, Gepard, and the rest of the garbage. Okay, I mean, nothing new here. We knew all this information before NATO summit kicked off, so I don't even know how they're gonna try to create image from this NATO summit as if it's something of importance. It's a gathering, with a very few exceptions, by the way. It's a gathering of the idiots, despicable individuals, right? That's all this NATO summit is, really. And no one should expect anything really serious from this paper tiger organization. Anyways, let's continue. They will give us a reason to laugh today and tomorrow also. This NATO so-called summit will last like 3 days. It kicked off yesterday, so today we will see some news from that clown show, and tomorrow also. But anyways, let's continue. RT is reporting that meanwhile New York Times is publishing article that Ukrainian forces are depleted. Well, what a surprise! What a surprise, by the way, that Kiev regime forces are depleted. So Kiev's foreign backers believe that Ukraine will not be able to take back its lost territories as its forces are stretched too thin. The New York Times reported on Tuesday, citing anonymous sources. US officials who repeatedly spoke to the outlet privately consider it all but impossible for Ukraine to win back all the territories it has lost to Russia. However, they are saying to believe that gives battlefield performance, improves, it could still emerge a victor in the conflict by moving towards closer integration with the NATO and Europe. Whenever, probably all of you noticed, dear friends, that whenever any of the media outlets in the West or any of the so-called journalists will say something true about Kiev regime, they have to come up with some huge lie right after that to somehow boost this whole Ukrainian story. Like in this particular case, New York Times is writing that, well, Ukrainian forces are, or Kiev regime forces are too weak, depleted. No officials in the West, in US, are believing that Kiev regime will be able to regain control over anything really. And at the same time, by saying this, which is true, Kiev regime forces would not be able to regain initiative on any of the directions, and the best they can do is to turn on their masters, really, turn on their Kiev regime, take them out, and then declare Western ruling class as the enemy of Ukraine and Ukrainians, because they are. Western ruling class is the enemy of Ukrainians and Ukraine because they sacrificed Ukraine, right? They sacrificed Ukraine, and they knew what they were going to do to Ukrainians and Ukraine even before 2014, before they organized that coup d'etat in Kiev when they overthrew democratically elected government of the Yanukovych, about whom I have nothing good to say, by the way, about that person, Yanukovych, but he was elected by Ukrainian society. He was legit president. So yes, best Ukrainian forces can do is to turn on their real enemies, which is Kiev regime and the Western masters of the Kiev regime, and save whatever is possible to save from Ukrainian society and Ukraine. Will they listen to my advice? No. But it will not change their objective reality. Best they can do is to turn on their real enemies, Kiev regime and their Western ruling class, and start looking for ways to resolve this, to finish this conflict with the Russian side. Let's continue. RT is reporting that EU could end Hungary's presidency, according to Politico. Well, we all know that Hungary's prime minister, at this point, probably I wouldn't be mistaken if I will say that, Hungary's legendary prime minister, Viktor Orban, because of his peace marathon, this diplomatic marathon that he went on by visiting Kiev, visiting Moscow, then Beijing. Now he's in Washington, and probably will have a conversation with Biden's administration, officials in Biden's administration, because Biden himself hardly understands anything at this point. And maybe Hungary's prime minister will have a conversation with Trump also, possibly future president of US. So for this diplomatic marathon on part of Hungary's leadership, now Western ruling class, because they are not happy with him, they want to punish Hungary. They want to punish Hungary's leadership and end their presidency in European Union. Now you tell me how weak Western ruling class really is when they are acting this way. This is it's not even not childish. It's something I don't know. You tell me what that kind of behavior really is. Western ruling class is too weak, by the way. Western ruling class is too weak. They never grow up. They never learn nothing, and therefore, they are danger. They are danger for Western societies. They are danger for humanity itself, because unfortunately they are in charge of dozens and dozens of countries in the collective West, including nuclear-armed countries, and they are dangerous. So yes, in upcoming days and weeks, Hungary may get punished by this Western ruling class. and it may lose presidency in EU. And Glad newspaper is reporting that, well, in France, by the way, investigation has begun against Marine Le Pen, leader of the right-wing party, that almost achieved historical success on a recent parliamentary election due to some administrative manipulations, only due to that manipulation that Macron's coalition and the bloc of left-leaning parties committed. Only because of that they were able to defeat Le Pen's party. And many experts who know about French internal policies much more than I will ever do, all of them agree on that. Many of them are agree on that point. And well, now prosecution of Paris, prosecutor of the Paris, capital of France, is going after Marine Le Pen, and she is charged for some. She is investigated on financing campaign of the 2022 elections. So they will try to destroy this right-wing party now, I guess. I mean, they have significant support of French people that are really fed up with the EU, fed up with the policies of these globalists that are controlling France, and therefore probably Marine Le Pen will receive significant support from the public. But if globalists are after her, if she did not manage to find her coming ground with the globalists, if she did not compromise with globalists, then they will take her out, politically speaking, and maybe even physically. Who knows? Man, Western ruling class is capable of any crimes, really. So yes, Marine Le Pen is under investigation now in France. Let's see how that story goes. Also, Glad newspaper is reporting that oh, that's interesting. That's interesting that professor of Harvard University, Stephen Walt, stated in his article on foreign policy, and foreign policy is quite influential media outlet, as some say, in US. So this professor, Stephen Walt, stated that NATO is about to get smashed, kind of divisions inside the NATO. Divisions inside the NATO are too obvious and increasing. And yes, split. I was looking for this word, by the way. Split is in NATO seems inevitable to this professor due to differences in the positions of leaders of the NATO member states, due to failure of Ukraine policy of the NATO. And every country, according to this professor, now is trying to act strictly based on their own national interests. I may disagree on that point. I don't think NATO member states, with the exception of few, really care about national interests or interests of their own people. It's too obvious, isn't it? Just a few days ago, UK new prime minister was appointed in UK, a new government, and these people, first public statements they made, this was about Ukraine. As if Ukraine is a priority of the national security of the Ukraine or a national strategical interests of the public of the UK. UK's economy is in deep trouble. And instead of talking about what they're going to do to improve economical situation in Ukraine, first statements of these newly appointed high-ranking officials of UK was about Ukraine and NATO. So where is the interests of the UK citizens in that? So therefore, I disagree with this professor that these elites, political elites of the NATO member states are now more focused on national interests. They are not. They may just are frustrated because of the failures of their failures in this proxy war against Russia, and due to this frustration, maybe they are arguing between each other more now. But they definitely don't care about the national interests of the European states. Come on, man, they are puppets of globalists. They don't even know what national interests are or mean. And dear friends, if I may, I will advertise my small media project for a minute now. As many of you know, this project is subscriber funded exclusively, which gives me independence and which is great. Although to reach next level of development of this project, I have to ask for support to be able to make this next step. And well, if you find these channels of mine interesting, if you find my work interesting, if you think channels like mine have to exist on this field of news and political commentary, and if you want to see some more content from Russia, by the way, about news and politics, about some events in Russia, about life in Russia in general, please consider to support this project and my work with donations through PayPal, or subscribe to my Patreon channel, Patreon page, and Boosty page. All the links are under this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. On my behalf, I can promise to do whatever I can to make interesting content on all my channels, on YouTube, on Rumble, Telegram, and Boosty and Patreon. Also, by the way, on Boosty and Patreon, I have regular extra contents as my thank to Patreons that are making this project, that giving me opportunity to work on this project. And yesterday, for example, I published another episode of Streets of Moscow, from Mardinsky to Peak. Oh, let me show you a little episode of that. Hopefully you will like it. I was
so right now we are on the Ardinka to Peak.
This was recorded on 2nd.
This street just starts
July.
there.
I went to Moscow.
It seems like administration of Moscow is using every piece of land
videos
to make it green. Every piece of administrative land, city
and
land.
I'm publishing
And we are
every day these short videos.
seeing now yet another square.
I was so surprised.
Nice area. And nice fontano here. But this area is so nice. Very calm. I would love to have flat here in this area. And it got very nice. So this was Ardinka Street, Ardinka to Peak. This is one of the buildings of the Tretikovka Gallery, and of course, Tretikovka is one of the richest museums in Russia.
So I was so surprised, by the way, even though Moscow is a wonderful city, obviously it's a wonderful city, it's greatly done, and renovations are taking place all the time, and city is getting better and better year after year. But this is Ardinka to Peak is a central part of Moscow, by the way, and because it's a center, it's always too many people, it's always cars, and there's noise specific to the central areas of the city. And when I went through this small road, I was surprised how tranquil that area was, how cool that area was. If you did not know, you would not think that you are right in in the middle of this megapolis. It was a very cool area, very nice area, just wonderful place. And that's what I do, by the way, quite often on my Patreon and Boosty. I'm making videos from different areas and showing to community. Also, I have some reaction videos. Recently I start making reaction videos, and well, basically I'm trying to do I'm trying to make this Patreon and Boosty pages as interesting as I can. Hopefully in the future I will have more content, more different programs. So yes, please consider to support my work, and one of the ways that you can do it is subscribing to my Patreon page or Boosty page if for whatever reason you don't want to subscribe on Patreon. I know some people don't like Patreon. I see many comments about that. They have some issues with Patreon because a number of creators were banned by Patreon, which is unfortunate. But if you have some issues with Patreon, you can subscribe on Boosty. All the links under this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. And that's been said, let's talk about some additional news now. And artists report that Biden wants to serve until 2029, according to White House. So despite all these publications in the Western media, despite this internal revolt among Democrat establishment to move Biden aside, Biden himself is quite keen to continue this presidential rally, this election campaign. So US President Joe Biden is determined to stay in office for a full second term if re-elected, according to White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre. Well, I don't know about that. Maybe, you know what? Theoretically, it is possible that establishment of Democrats, maybe they will leave Biden, because probably they are conducting some studies, right? And to about opinion of the society in US, and if according to those studies, none of the possible or potential candidates on part of Democrats are able to beat Donald Trump, then maybe they will decide, this establishment of Democrats will decide to leave Biden for now, because Trump is going to win anyways, and they may come up with a new candidate in next election spin. It will make sense if now Democrats are conducting studies and they see results of the studies, and none of their candidates, not Michelle Obama, not Gavin Newsom, not anybody else, can beat Donald Trump, then what is the point to remove Biden right now from the race? Let him stay in the race, he will lose, okay. But this way they will save face for these potential other candidates that may be used for next election, right? So who knows? Maybe Biden will stay all the way. Although how he gonna manage this physically, I have no idea. But anyways, let's continue. RT is reporting that UK's finance is worst since the 1945. This is according to new Chancellor of the UK. So UK's new Labour government has inherited the worst economy since the Second World War. The newly appointed Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rachel Reeves, has stated. Reeves took charge on the country's finances after Labour won 412 of 650 seats in the House of Commons in last week's general election, ending 14 years of Conservative Party rule. And I'll give you some interesting numbers, by the way. So, and this is quote, a new Treasury analysis that I requested over the weekend shows that had the UK economy grown at the average rate of their other OECD, this is Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. So other OECD countries this last 13 years, our economy would have been over 140 billion pounds larger. Reeves stated. She claims that Tory policies effectively cost the UK budget of 58 billion pounds in lost tax revenues in 2023 alone, which is quite significant, by the way. 58 billion pounds, it's a lot of money, isn't it? It's a 74 billion dollars. So interesting. And I just said a few minutes ago, isn't it, that instead of focusing on economy of UK, on financial situation on the UK, on social fabric of the UK, instead of that, this new Prime Minister of UK, new Foreign Minister, new Defense Minister, they come up and start talking about Ukraine, NATO, that kind of nonsense. I was expecting in the first statements, at least from Foreign Minister and new Prime Minister, focus to be on UK first, and then let's talk about other topics. I was expecting that kind of attitude because it seems correct. Every government in this world should think first about national interests of their own countries, about interests of their own people, and then rest of it. It's logical, isn't it? But no, UK's Prime Minister went to talk about NATO and Ukraine and how they're going to continue throwing billions and billions in this proxy war against Russia. And now we have a statement from Chancellor that just in last year, by the way, due to crazy policies, in tax revenues only, UK lost 58 billion. Can you imagine how much UK lost because of the less and less investments in the UK as economy, because of these crazy policies of their Western governments, especially in terms of freezing Russian assets and constantly talking about how they're going to steal Russian assets. It's a mess, by the way. It's a mess. TASS news agency is reporting that Russian Foreign Intelligence Service shared information with public here that Washington plans to overthrow current Georgian government, and they will use for this upcoming parliamentary elections in autumn. And according to Russian military intelligence, already certain plans being put in place by Washington. And when we say Washington, that means CIA, obviously. CIA and all the other terrorist organizations that are operating under the umbrella of US government. And well, is anybody surprised? No, because I was talking about possible destabilization of the Georgia. I mean, since forever at this point. Just yesterday, before this article was published on TASS, in yesterday's update, or it was day before yesterday, I was talking about exactly about the risks that Washington and Western ruling class in general will use upcoming parliamentary elections that should take place in October as a starting point to destabilize Georgia and then conduct regime change and sacrifice Georgia by using it as a kind of second front against Russia. And I was talking about these topics constantly, by the way, for many months now. because it's just too obvious, right? All you need to do is to analyze information in open sources, and you will get good understanding of the situation. And Russian foreign intelligence service definitely has much more sources of the information than just media, right? So if they are saying that Georgia is about to get destabilized by Washington, then Georgian government should take with all seriousness this warning from Moscow, and should get ready for all sorts of provocations. Western ruling class can do anything. They are ruthless killers, by the way. Western ruling class is ruthless killers, mass murderers, and terrorists, and they are capable of absolutely any atrocity. So Georgian government is in very difficult situation. They have to get ready for what is about to come. RT is reporting that a major Russia-Iran treaty remains on a track, according to President-elect of Iran. Iranian President-elect Masoud Pezeshkian has told his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin that stalled comprehensive cooperation treaty between the two nations will soon be signed, according to local media. The proposed deal was intended to blast bilateral relations, but progress was paused after Pezeshkian's predecessor, Ebrahim Raisi, was killed in a helicopter crash in May. The incoming leader of the Iranian government, who was elected last week, promised progress on Monday after Putin called to congratulate him on his victory. So, yes, further improvement of the bilateral relationships between Russia and Iran is inevitable, I believe, and there are big expectations, by the way, that some very significant agreements will be signed between Moscow and Tehran. Maybe even about cooperation in military terms, and maybe even treaty of bilateral protection in case of foreign aggression. That will be something extremely big, extremely important, because I'm 100% sure that Western ruling class wants to provoke regional war in the Middle East, maybe even attack Iran directly or indirectly to provoke this regional war, because their goal is to shut down navigation in the Persian Gulf and through Hormuz Strait, so that China will be cut off from Middle Eastern energy sources. That's what Western ruling class wants. But if Iran and Russia will sign agreement about bilateral support, military support and assistance in case of foreign aggression, well, that changes. That will change calculus of the Western ruling class significantly, probably. So let's see. In upcoming weeks, months, some significant agreements will be signed between Russia and Iran, for sure. And maybe first foreign visit of the new president-elect of the Iran will be in Russia. Who knows? Let's see. RT is reporting that Russia and India set a new trade target. Russia and India have set a goal of reaching 100 billion in bilateral trade by 2030, according to President Vladimir Putin's top economic advisor, Maxim Oreshkin. 100 billion between Russia and India. I mean, 100 billion, it's okay, but it's a little low number. I would like to see trade between Russia and India to be on a level of like 200-300 billion at least. And we will get there. We will get there at some point. But it is good to know that Moscow and New Delhi are on this path of further improvement of the strategic relationships between the sides on all levels, by the way. And for example, we have RIA Novost's report here that Rosatom right now is preparing technical plans to build a new nuclear power station in India, which is great, by the way. India needs more energy, and Russia can provide India with nuclear technologies, with nuclear power stations, reactors, and so on. Great, by the way. Cooperation in between Russia and India should be on all levels, from finances and economy to transfer of technologies, including nuclear technologies, peaceful nuclear technologies in this case, and every other way. Military cooperation. I said many times, I see India as a strategic partner for Russia for many reasons, including economy and security. And I believe India also sees Russia as a strategic partner for exactly the same reason: finances, economy, global stability, regional stability, and security. And also, by the way, India decided to open its 2 new consulates in Russia, in Russian cities, Kazan and Yekaterinburg, which clearly demonstrates how close 2 countries really are. And of course, opening of 2 additional consulates will help to bring people closer. Also, India is a popular destination for Russian tourists, and it's not just the tourists, by the way. There's so much to learn from India, right? It's one of the oldest civilizations in this world, so obviously there's so much to learn from India and in India. So great, by the way. Whenever I hear any news about cooperation between Russia and India, I'm always happy about it. Great. And Prime Minister of India, Modi, left Russia. He was with a 2-day trip here. He had a meeting with the Russian president, and I believe this trip was successful. He left Russia for now, and according to some reports, by the way, one of the key topics that sides were discussing is creation of some instruments to make it easier trade between the sides. So they were talking about some financial tools that will help sides to basically bypass Western unlawful Western sanctions on Russian financial and banking system, and threats from the Western ruling class against India with the secondary sanctions if they continue trade with Russia. So, well, work is done, by the way. Work is in place to create alternative financial and banking system, alternative to the Western one. And just give it time, like year, 2 years. It's a complex stuff. I get that. It's a complex stuff. There is many countries in BRICS, many countries that wants to become a BRICS member. Also, there is a Shanghai Cooperation Organization, some other organizations that are not controlled by Western ruling class, and there are so many members, and the opinion of everybody has to be taken in account. And this is a long process, obviously, but we will get there, and eventually, world will receive alternative financial and banking system from emerging multipolar world. That will help us to get rid of fully get rid of Western financial and banking system that been weaponized by Western ruling class in unprecedented scale. And let's continue. RT is reporting that Saudis threaten G7 over the Russian assets. According to Bloomberg, the group of 7 likely abandoned their US plan to expropriate Russia's frozen central bank assets due to threat from Saudi Arabia. Bloomberg has reported the US and UK has been pushing for outright seizure of around 280 billion in Russian sovereign funds, which the West has frozen in 2022, citing the Ukrainian conflict. The EU, where most of their immobilized assets are held, was reluctant to see the euro endangered by their possible backlash. Saudi Arabia privately hinted that it might sell some of its EU debt holdings if the G7 went ahead with their confiscation plans. Bloomberg reported on Tuesday, citing people familiar with the matter. And well, it's, I guess, not just Saudi Arabia that was not happy with their actions of the Western ruling class. Many other countries worldwide also are not happy, because now they know that their investments in the West are not safe. It's not really matters at this point. Will EU, UK and US will steal completely these assets or not? Reputation of the Western economy, Western financial and banking system is finished. Anyways, it's finished. And Saudi Arabia, for example, is issuing threats right now because they don't want to sell all of their assets in the West immediately, not to escalate in extreme terms relationships with their Europe and North America, for example. But they are on a track. They will little by little sell their interests in the Western economies, that's for sure, and every other country will do the same, because I mean, there is no point to have any investments in the Western economy, because they can steal it anytime. They can freeze it. I mean, if they are freezing it and you cannot benefit from your investments, then what is the point to invest? What is the point to have any investments in the Western economy, right? So therefore, Western ruling class was immensely damaging for Western economies, and they're continuing to destroy Western economies. They continue to isolate collective West from rest of the world, and this process is not stopping. This process is not stopping until Western societies will wake up and force their own political elites to act based on national interests, not some crazy agendas of the globalists, or before Western societies will just rebel and push aside these corrupt elites that they have now, and will put some decent people in the position of power. Theoretically, that may happen. I wish all the luck to Western societies on this struggle against their own so-called elites. But right now, it seems like divide between world and Western collective West is just unstoppable. Kommersant is reporting that United Arab Emirates and yes, few more news. You might be surprised to hear that United Arab Emirates, which is rich with their oil, obviously, increase its purchase of Russian oil products in 2023 up to 971 million. And by the way, this year this number probably will be significantly higher, and we all understand why, isn't it? Because some businesses, I guess, in United Arab Emirates are using this opportunity to basically resell Russian oil products and make some good buck on it. Indian businesses are doing the great business right now. They're making billions and billions by reselling Russian oil and oil products to rest of the world, to Europe, by the way. For example, India is now, I guess, one of the major oil product supplier to the Europe, and all that oil products come from Russian oil. And well, Saudi Arabia also wants to make some money, some businessmen there, I guess, and that's why we are seeing these numbers that these oil-rich countries even buying Russian oil and oil products. Okay, it's good, by the way. Russia is benefiting from it, India benefiting from it, China is also in this business, Chinese companies. United Arab Emirates are getting involved little by little. They just starting. This year they'll probably increase their participation in this game on oil markets. It's all good. Every side is benefiting, with exception of economies of the West, because they are now buying Russian oil products and Russian oil significantly on significantly higher prices, because they are buying it from third and there's in some cases from the fourth hand, while before they could buy directly from Russia. But yet again, if any questions, then all those questions have to be asked to Western ruling class, why they are acting this crazy. And dear friends, I will end this update on this very interesting and important news that according to Vzglad newspaper, there is the work in place on the way now to unite payment systems of the BRICS member states, like it was done between Russian Mir payment system and Iranian Shetab payment system. And if this work, by the way, if this work will complete, well, maybe that's how we will get alternative to the SWIFT, for example, alternative to the Western financial and banking system that I'm constantly talking about. Great news, great news. You know what? Let's translate these few sentences here. And it is proposed to merge the Russian payment system with the payment systems of the BRICS countries. As an example, we can take the experience of combining the Russian Mir system within the Iranian Shetab. Tehran believes this initiative is from Tehran, by the way. Iran's finance ministry, central bank, is leading, acting very actively these days, and they are pushing this intensification of the work on the topic of creation of alternative financial and banking system, which is understandable, by the way. Iran is under Western sanctions far longer than Russia, and they want to overcome as fast as possible all their obstacles that were created with these illegal Western sanctions. So let's continue. So similar projects are already being discussed with Turkey and India, Russia's most important trading partners. And if China also decides to merge with the Russian payment system, then this will be a strong blow for the United States. There was, well, it will be a strong blow for Western ruling class and Western weaponized Western financial and banking system, I will say this way. There was a proposal to unite the national payment systems of the BRICS countries. Iranian Foreign Ministry also spoke about this topic. Official from ministry, Nasser Kanani, and he proposed doing this following their example of combining the Russian Mir system and the Iranian Shetab system. Russia agreed to this proposal. Negotiations are continuing. Kanani noted on the IRIB or IRIB TV channel. So great, by the way, great. I like this initiative, 100%. Probably I was only one that almost on daily basis talking about that was on daily basis talking about this topic of alternative financial and banking system. Other channels also, of course, pay attention to this matter, but I literally talk about it almost on daily basis, and I'm glad that work is done in this direction. It's good to know that countries, BRICS member states, are coming up with new initiatives. They are cooperating. Already there is a cooperation in the place. For example, Russian and Iranian payment systems are operating together now, which is very, very beneficial for businesses, for private citizens, obviously, which is good development. And if India will join, if China will join, if other BRICS member states will join this process, and they will eventually, of course, that's going to be huge. That's going to be huge. Hopefully in upcoming BRICS Summit in Kazan this autumn, probably or hopefully we will receive some additional information from BRICS member state leadership about some concrete steps that was conducted to come up with this alternative financial and the banking system. You cannot exaggerate how important that is, really, for entire world, not just for Russia, Iran, India, or other countries of the BRICS, but for entire world. And this is it for now. Relatively long update, but hopefully you will find it informative, interesting, informative, useful. Sorry, and if so, please click that like button and leave some commentary. Let's try and fight back the shadow ban and algorithm of the YouTube. And this is the only way we can. Likes and comments, and for the same reason, if you can, please share information about my channel with your friends in real life and also on internet, on the platforms that you are actively using. And finally, let me remind you that this evening 9 o'clock I will have a live stream. It's going to be community chat as always, and I hope you'll join the conversation. This is it for now. Now, if you want to support my work, then all the links are under this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. Have a great day and take care.